There's a specific kind of silence that hits a man harder than any insult. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of a woman who suddenly stops responding. One day she's warm, playful, engaged. The next day she becomes a ghost cold, distant, unreadable. And in that split second, your mind starts attacking you. Did I mess up? Did she lose interest? What did I do wrong? But here's the brutal truth. No one tells men a woman doesn't ignore you because you're unworthy. She ignores you to see whether you break or whether you rise. Because her silence isn't just silence. It's a mirror, a test, a pressure point designed to reveal exactly what kind of man you are. Most men collapse, they chase, they double text, they panic. But the man who wins is the man who stays calm, centered, and unfazed. In this video, I'll show you the single smartest move that flips the power dynamic completely, how to make her silence work for you, not against you, and how to respond in a way that reclaims your value without saying a single word. If you've ever been ignored by a woman, this is the moment everything changes. Let's begin. There's a particular kind of silence that shakes a man more than any argument ever. Could the silence of a woman who suddenly stops responding? Most men read that silence as rejection. They think, she's done. She lost interest. I messed up. But that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. A woman's silence is rarely a statement. It's almost always a shield, an instinctive emotional defense mechanism she retreats to when something inside her becomes too real, too fast. Women don't fear losing men nearly as much as they fear losing control of their feelings. When she starts liking you, genuinely liking you, her emotions move faster than her logic can keep up with. And when that happens, she doesn't lean in. She pulls back. Not because she stopped caring, but because she started caring more than she expected. You have to understand something fundamental. Women don't withdraw when they feel nothing. They withdraw when they feel too much. Deep attraction creates vulnerability. Vulnerability triggers fear. And fear makes her retreat into silence, because silence feels safer than exposure. When she likes you, her mind starts running questions she won't say out loud. What if he doesn't feel the same? What if I fall first? What if I get hurt again? What if I misread his intentions? Her silence is not a decision, it's self-protection. It's her way of slowing her heart down before it outruns her emotional safety. Imagine a woman who has been disappointed before, abandoned before, betrayed before. She has built walls around her heart, not because she wants to, but because she had to. So when she meets a man whose presence feels too steady, too genuine, too real, those walls start to crack. The closer you get, the more exposed she feels. And that's when her instinct kicks in. She withdraws to survive her own emotions. Her silence is overwhelmed emotion, not indifference. Her pullback is fear, not rejection. Her distance is confusion, not clarity. But here's the mistake 99% of men make the moment she becomes silent. They panic. They try to fix. They try to chase. They try to over-explain. They respond emotionally while she's trying to calm her emotions down. This pushes her further away. Because a man who can't stay calm when she gets quiet becomes the very danger she was afraid of, someone who can't hold space for her complexity. A woman's silence is not a test you pass by fighting for her attention. It's a moment you win by holding your frame. When she goes silent, she is not asking you to fill the space with noise. She's asking you without saying a word to prove that her emotions don't control yours. Her silence asks one question: can you stay steady when I'm not? If you panic, she pulls back further. If you stay centered, she slowly returns. This is where stoic masculinity becomes magnetic. Your calmness becomes the antidote to her emotional storm. Your steadiness becomes the signal she didn't know she was looking for. Because when a woman pulls away, she's not looking for a man who says, "I won't leave." She's looking for a man who proves, "I don't break." And that is the psychological truth behind her silence. She isn't rejecting you. She's regulating herself. She isn't losing interest. She's losing emotional balance. Her silence isn't her final answer. It's her attempt to find one, and the man who understands this, the man who stays grounded, quiet, centered, becomes the one she eventually returns to, not out of loneliness, but out of trust. When a woman ignores you, the average man doesn't fall because he's weak. He falls because he reacts. And reaction, not rejection, is what destroys his value. The truth is brutally simple. Men don't lose women during moments of silence. They lose themselves. They hand over their emotional center the moment uncertainty enters the room. Every man has felt that familiar jolt. Her response slows down. Her tone shifts, or her attention drops. It's subtle, almost invisible. But your chest tightens instantly. Your mind starts spinning. Did I say something wrong? Did she lose interest? Is she texting someone else? You don't breathe. You panics. And panic is the birthplace of every mistake men make in the modern dating world. What most men call effort is really emotional scrambling. They send another text because they can't sit with discomfort. They call because silence feels like a threat. They justify themselves because they think clarity will restore connection. Every action is driven not by strategy but fear, and fear is loud. Women feel it instantly. The feminine mind notices shifts in emotional energy with unbelievable accuracy. When you panic, it doesn't matter what words you use. She feels the vibration of insecurity beneath them. She senses that you're no longer standing in your frame, no longer anchored. Instead of communicating confidence, your energy says, "I need your response to feel okay." That single message kills more attraction than any mistake you could verbalize. Men fail not because they get ignored, but because they cannot hold stillness. They've never trained themselves to tolerate uncertainty. They want to fix, clarify, restore, explain, or make things right, believing that movement equals control. But movement rooted in fear is nothing but emotional leakage. The masculine energy collapses the moment it seeks external reassurance. And here's the truth: nobody tells you it's not the silence that makes her lose respect. It's your inability to withstand it. Panic mode. Panic makes men abandon every principle that would have made them attractive in the first place. Their texts get longer. Their tone gets needier. Their decisions get weaker. They're no longer speaking as grounded men. They're speaking as boys, afraid of emotional abandonment. A woman feels this instantly. Your urgency becomes her confirmation that she holds the power. She doesn't need to ignore you maliciously. She can simply sense that your self-worth is tied to her attention. And the moment she senses this, something inside her relaxes in the wrong direction. She no longer sees a man centered in himself. She sees a man dependent on her responses. Double texting the silent confession. A double text is more than words on a screen. It's a confession. A confession that you've lost composure. A confession that you fear losing her. A confession that your emotional thermostat responds to her availability instead of your purpose. A man who double texts out of insecurity is telling her one thing: my value depends on you. That message doesn't just lower attraction, it erases polarity. Feminine energy cannot be magnetized toward a man who is emotionally consuming her, rather than grounding her. Validation seeking. The invisible killer, validation seeking, is the unconscious plea men make when they feel unstable. Did I do something wrong? Are you okay? Is everything fine between us on the surface? These questions seem caring. Underneath, they drip with insecurity. They pressure her. They force her into the role of emotional regulator. And nothing suffocates desire like being responsible for a man's emotional balance. Women aren't turned off by kindness. They're turned off by dependence disguised as kindness. Why chasing kills respect? Chasing is not pursuit. Pursuit is intentional. Chasing is emotional hunger, wearing the costume of effort. When you chase, you think you're showing value, but what you're truly showing is internal instability. Your actions tell her, my confidence collapses when you pull away. My identity depends on how you treat me. Your silence has more control over me than my own self-discipline. The masculine is meant to be the anchor, not the ship thrown around by every wave. This is why chasing kills respect. It proves she has emotional leverage over you, and the feminine instinct cannot trust, let alone desire a man she can emotionally overthrow with one quiet moment. The Stoic truth men avoid. A woman's silence is not a command for you to act. It's a command for you to remain still, composed, unmoved. The reason most men fail is because they interpret discomfort as danger, when in reality, discomfort is the arena where your masculine strength is tested. The man who can hold his center through silence communicates a message 10 times more powerful than any text. My peace is self-generated, and that, more than anything else, is what begins to shift the dynamic. Because when a woman realizes your emotional world is not something she can manipulate, she no longer sees you as replaceable. She sees you as rare. The trap isn't her silence, it's your reaction to it. The moment you learn to remain calm inside the unknown, you stop losing yourself. And the moment you stop losing yourself, you stop losing women. There comes a moment in every man's journey when he realizes this truth. Your calmness is louder than any message you could send. It's the moment you stop trying to convince, explain, chase, or decode her silence, and instead turn inward, reclaiming the one thing you can control completely, your internal state. When a woman ignores you, most men collapse into emotional noise. They spiral into intrusive thoughts, replay conversations, search for mistakes, and analyze her last text like it holds divine meaning. But the Stoic man takes a different path. He understands that the real battleground isn't her silence, it's his own mind. And whoever controls his mind controls the entire dynamic. Calmness is not passivity. It's not weakness. It's not pretending not to care. Calmness is presence. Calmness is sovereignty. Calmness is power. Because the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop giving your emotions away, something fundamental shifts. Not just in her, but in you. A woman can feel when your center collapses. She can feel when your peace depends on her response. She can feel when your emotions sit in her hands instead of yours. This is why panic kills attraction instantly, not because she's cruel, but because your reaction tells her you can't handle her emotional storms. And a man who can't handle storms cannot be trusted with her heart. But calmness, true, grounded calmness, creates a kind of emotional gravity she can't ignore. It says, I am whole whether you stay or go. It says, you don't dictate my value. It says, you don't chase outcomes. I choose myself first. This is what Stoic masculinity looks like in real time. A Stoic man is not controlled by circumstances. He doesn't flinch when someone pulls away. He doesn't abandon himself to win someone back. He doesn't let temporary emotions shape permanent decision. Instead, he stabilizes his internal state with the discipline of a man who refuses to be ruled by anything outside himself. That is what makes him so rare. That is what makes him so magnetic. And ironically, that is what makes women drawn back to him without him lifting a finger. When she ignores you, your emotional reaction is her X-ray machine. It reveals everything: your neediness, your insecurity, your attachment to outcome. But your calmness, that reveals something else, something far more powerful. It reveals mastery. It reveals maturity. It reveals a man who doesn't live at the mercy of anyone's validation. The Stoics believe that what disturbs a man is never the situation itself, but the meaning he attaches to it. Her silence is not a verdict. It is not a rejection. It is not a judgment of your worth. It is simply an event. Neutral. Empty. You fill that silence with meaning. Most men fill it with fear. A Stoic fills it with discipline. Because calmness isn't just a mindset, it's a strategy. It stops you from bleeding energy into situations you can't control. It prevents you from acting in ways that sabotage your dignity. It protects you from losing respect by reacting emotionally. And most importantly, it allows you to see clearly. You stop interpreting her actions through insecurity and start seeing reality without distortion. From that clarity comes strength. A calm man becomes unpredictable not because he plays games, but because he refuses to let his emotions be readable. She can no longer predict your next move. She no longer knows if she's succeeded in shaking you. Her ego expects a reaction. Instead, she receives silence. Her mind expects panic. Instead, she feels stability. And that stability disrupts her emotional rhythm. That disruption is what triggers her curiosity. Curiosity becomes attraction. Attraction becomes respect. Calmness is masculine because calmness is control. And control, especially emotional control, is the rarest form of strength in today's chaotic world. But the Stoic shift is deeper than just holding back a text or pretending to be unbothered. It's about transforming your inner landscape so completely that you respond differently, naturally, not forced, not rehearsed, but instinctively. You no longer act calm, you are calm. You no longer pretend to be confident, you've built confidence from the inside out. You no longer fake detachment, you genuinely detach from outcomes because you trust yourself enough to know you'll thrive regardless. When you reach that point, something changes. You stop asking, "Why is she ignoring me?" and start asking, "Why does this disturb me?" That question is the gateway to your evolution. Because once you realize that no person's behavior should have the power to destabilize you, you step into a different level of masculinity. A level where peace becomes your responsibility, where emotional discipline becomes your advantage, where presence becomes your message. And in that state, you no longer chase, you no longer explain, you no longer react. You simply stand in your frame and let the world adjust to you. Calmness doesn't guarantee she comes back. It guarantees something far more important. You never lose yourself in the process. That is the Stoic shift. That is the power she feels. That is the man she cannot forget. There's a moment in every connection where silence stops being silence and starts becoming a message. Not the kind spoken, but the kind felt. And the man who understands this, who understands the psychology behind stepping back, creates a shift inside her that words could never trigger. Absence, when used correctly, isn't withdrawal. It's contrast. It's the emotional disruption that makes her feel something she didn't feel before: curiosity, uncertainty, and a subtle fear of losing access to your energy. Because here's the truth: most men never learn. Presence makes her comfortable. Absence makes her aware. When you stop reaching, stop texting first. Stop trying to fill the silence she created. Something begins to happen inside her. The rhythm she was used to suddenly breaks, and the feminine mind is deeply sensitive to broken patterns. Women don't crave consistency the way men do. They crave movement, the emotional high and low, the curiosity, the contrast. So when you're no longer responding the way you used to, no longer reacting instantly, no longer filling the void, your absence becomes an emotional stimulus, a signal that something has shifted, a disruption that makes her lean forward instead of leaning back. Because here's the psychological twist: when you stop reaching, she doesn't feel ignored. She feels the loss of your interest. And that loss is what activates attraction. 1. Scarcity, the trigger she can't ignore. Humans are wired to value what feels rare, and to overlook what feels always available. When you pull back, not out of anger or manipulation, but out of calm self-respect, you introduce scarcity into the dynamic. Suddenly, your attention is no longer something she can take for granted. Your time feels more valuable. Your silence feels heavier. Your absence feels intentional. And intentional absence is the strongest form of presence. 2. Curiosity. The feminine mind needs answers. Women don't chase men. They chase the missing piece. They chase the uncertainty that pulls at their emotions and forces them to look inward. When you stop giving her the predictable, the good morning texts, the instant replies, the checking-ins. Her mind starts spinning on its own. Did I misread him? Why did he stop? Has he moved on? Did someone else catch his attention? These questions don't come from logic. They come from instinct. Instinct hates open loops. And your silence becomes a loop she must close. Reverse psychology works because it turns your absence into a story her mind tries to finish. 3. Ego disruption. The quiet shock that pulls her back. Every woman has an ego tied to her desirability. She wants to feel like she matters, like she's special, like she still has emotional influence over you. When you no longer react to her pullback, when you stay calm, steady, and unaffected, something subtle breaks inside her ego. Not in a cruel way, in a revealing way, because once her ego can no longer predict your behavior, she has to reevaluate the entire dynamic. Maybe I'm not as important to him as I thought. Maybe he's not as attached as I assumed. Maybe he actually doesn't need me. And that ego disruption is what flips her mindset. She goes from, I know he wants me to, do I still have him? That shift reactivates desire faster than any text you could send. 4. When you stop reaching, she starts wondering. This is the core of reverse psychology. You're not playing games. You're not being manipulative. You're not withholding affection to punish her. You're simply removing excess investment from someone who is not currently meeting it. Your silence becomes a mirror. It reflects her behavior back at her. It forces her to confront what she's been avoiding. It makes her feel what you once felt. And that emotional shift is what rebalances the dynamic, because the masculine energy that stays calm when she withdraws is the masculine energy she trusts, respects, and eventually comes back to. Not the man who panics, not the man who chases, not the man who reacts, but the man who lets silence speak for him, the man who understands that when she ignores you, the strongest move isn't action, it's stillness. Stillness that communicates value. Stillness that commands respect. Stillness that makes her feel your absence more than she ever felt your presence. When a woman ignores you, most men waste their emotional energies spiraling. They sit staring at their phones, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios, trying to decode silence like it's some ancient puzzle. But here's the truth. Every high-value man eventually learns her silence is not a problem to solve. It's fuel. And where you direct that fuel determines the man you become. A woman's distance is only powerful when you hand her the reins of your emotional world. Most men do this unconsciously. They feel anxiety. And instead of transmuting that emotion inward, they spend it outward, overthinking, overanalyzing, overreacting. They burn energy trying to restore a connection that, at this moment, isn't theirs to restore. But the evolved man does something radically different. He doesn't chase. He doesn't plead. He doesn't negotiate for attention. He redirects, because he understands something primal. When a woman ignores you, she isn't removing power from you. She's giving you the opportunity to reclaim it. Redirection is the birthplace of evolution. You think you want her attention, but what you actually want is relief from discomfort. When you don't get that relief, your mind becomes restless. Good. That restlessness carries energy of fire, and most men waste it. But the stoic masculine man knows how to channel it. He takes all of that emotional agitation and sends it inward, to his body, his mission, his discipline, his identity. Suddenly, the same energy that once fueled anxiety begins to build momentum. When she ignores you, go to the gym like your life depends on it. Train harder than you have in months. Lift like you're rebuilding your self-respect with every rep. Because in a way, you are. When a man sharpens his body, he sharpens his mind. Training becomes the anchor that steadies him when external chaos tries to pull him off center. A woman can ignore your message. She cannot ignore your transformation. Purpose makes silence irrelevant. While most men spend hours refreshing their message screen, a man on his mission forgets. He even sent a message. His life is too big, too full, too demanding for his emotional world to orbit a single person. Purpose gives birth to emotional sovereignty. You stop reacting because you're too busy becoming. You stop chasing because you're too busy creating. You stop worrying because you're too busy evolving. Women sense this shift instantly. Your silence stops feeling like retreat. It starts feeling like focus. And focus is rare. Rare things attract attention. Self-upgrading changes the entire dynamic. When you redirect your energy, something powerful happens. Your absence gains gravity. You're no longer the man sitting by the phone. You're the man who disappears into improvement. She doesn't see desperation. She sees distance. She sees discipline. She sees a man who doesn't crumble when ignored. He ascends. This flips the psychological polarity of the connection. Instead of asking, "Why isn't he texting me?" she starts asking, "Why isn't he thinking about me?" And that question stirs something deep in her feminine subconscious. Uncertainty. Uncertainty leads to curiosity. Curiosity leads to pursuit. That's the power of redirected energy. When you evolve, she feels the shift even before she sees it. Mission over emotion. Every man faces a choice when he's ignored. Use your energy to chase her, or use your energy to upgrade you. One path leads to insecurity. The other leads to sovereignty. You know which one she responds to. Because women don't fall in love with a man who places her at the center of his world. They fall for the man who places his mission at the center of his world and invites her to orbit it. Her silence is not an insult. It's an invitation. An invitation to rise, to sharpen, to climb, to become the man who no longer needs to be chosen because he is too busy choosing himself. And here's the paradox. When your life elevates, people feel it without you saying a word. Even the one who once ignored you. When a woman ignores you, she expects one thing, above all your reaction. She expects the double text, the "did I do something wrong" message, the shift in your tone, the emotional tremor in your energy. Because, in her mind, ignoring you is supposed to put her in the position of power. But when you do nothing, no panic, no explanation, no chase, something far more interesting begins to unfold inside her. And this is where the psychological tide turns in your favor. Disorientation. Why isn't he reacting? Her first response isn't confidence. It's confusion. She pulled back, expecting you to lean in. She expected the predictable pattern she's seen in almost every man before you. Attention becomes fear. Fear becomes chasing. And chasing becomes her confirmation that she's still in control. But when you don't react, when your energy remains still, when your silence is calm rather than bitter, it disrupts her emotional rhythm. Suddenly, she can't read you. She can't predict your next move. She can't interpret the silence. And that disorientation is powerful, because the feminine mind is deeply sensitive to emotional patterns. When the pattern breaks, curiosity awakens. Curiosity. What changed? Her mind starts replaying your interactions like a movie she's trying to interpret. Why didn't he reply instantly? Why didn't he double text? Why didn't he try to fix things? And most importantly, did he lose interest? She won't admit this out loud, not even to herself, but the moment she wonders whether you've detached, she becomes invested again. Your silence becomes a question she can't answer. And questions are far more magnetic than declarations. Curiosity is the doorway to reattraction. Not flirting, not chasing, not over-explaining, just curiosity. Loss of control, the part she never wanted to feel when you stay calm. She begins to experience something she didn't anticipate, the loss of control over the emotional dynamic. Not because you're trying to manipulate her, but because your stillness removes the power she thought she had. Your emotional detachment becomes a mirror reflecting back to her the truth she didn't see coming. She doesn't influence you as much as she assumed. And this flips the script entirely. Women don't fear losing attention. They fear losing influence. They fear becoming irrelevant in your emotional world. When she senses that her silence didn't shake you, that you didn't collapse or chase, something inside her tightens. A subtle anxiety emerges. A quiet fear. A whisper saying, "I don't have him the way I thought I did." That's when ego begins to fight emotion. Ego conflict. He shouldn't affect me. But he does. Her ego wants her to stay silent, to stay in control, to stay untouchable. But her emotions have other plans. The ego says, "He should be chasing me." Her emotions say, "Why isn't he?" The ego says, "I don't care if he walks away." Her emotions whisper, "But what if he already has?" The ego says, "I'm fine without him." But in the quiet moments, when she scrolls through her phone, rereads your messages, or checks if you viewed her stories, she feels the truth. Your lack of reaction is affecting her more than her silence affected you. This internal battle is where women often begin reaching out with subtle touch points, a random emoji, a reaction to your story, a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" A question she already knows the answer to. She won't admit she misses you, but her behavior will. Emotional pull. She starts feeling you again when you don't react. Your presence becomes felt in a different way. You're not physically there. You're not texting. You're not reminding her you exist. But your absence has gravity. She finds herself thinking about you at unexpected times. She feels a pull she can't quite justify. And she begins replaying the emotional moments you shared, not the conversations, but the feeling of being around you. Women don't miss your words. They miss the emotional atmosphere you carry. When you stop reacting, you stop leaking emotional energy. You stop over-investing. You stop giving her the validation she took for granted. And that's when she begins to crave the stability you used to provide. Fear of losing you, the retention peak. This is where the emotional shift reaches its highest intensity, because the moment she realizes that your silence wasn't a strategy, that it wasn't passive aggression, that it wasn't manipulation, but peace, a peace that doesn't need her to stay centered, something inside her collapses. Fear. Not the fear of you leaving. The fear of losing access to a man who has self-control. Men who react are everywhere. Men who stay calm are rare. Men who don't chase, yet don't become cold or cruel. Those are almost impossible to replace. She begins to question, did I push too far? Did he give up on me? Did I misread his interest? Is he talking to someone else? And the more those questions grow, the more her emotional walls begin to crack. That's why this chapter is the retention spike, not because you manipulated her, but because you didn't betray yourself. You stayed still. You stayed centered. You stayed sovereign. And here's the truth, a woman might push away a man who chases, but she always returns to the man who remains grounded. Always. Because a woman might ignore your message, but she will never ignore your calmness. When she finally returns, it never happens the way you imagine it. There's no dramatic confession, no emotional apology, no moment where she suddenly realizes your worth with poetic clarity. It always begins quietly, a subtle message, a random reaction to your story, a soft, almost uncertain, "Hey, how have you been?" Because her return is never about coincidence. It's psychology. When you stopped reacting to her silence, something inside her began shifting. Your calm unsettled her ego. Your composure disrupted her control. Your absence created a vacuum she could feel. And now, as she circles back, she isn't coming back to test you, she's coming back to test herself. And a strong man understands this deeply. A weak man sees her return as victory. A strong man sees it as verification, confirmation that his evolution was real. Because when she comes back, the real test doesn't begin with her behavior. It begins with yours. A strong man never collapses into excitement. He never jumps back into old patterns. He never treats her reappearance as a trophy. He responds with frame, a steady tone, a grounded presence, a calmness that says, "I'm open, but not available at any cost." You don't reward absence with enthusiasm. You don't fill the silence she created. You don't offer emotional labor she didn't earn. Instead, you protect the balance you fought for. Her return will often show up in one of two ways. One, curiosity disguised as casualness. She sends a light, playful message, not because she's ready to reconnect, but because she wants to see if she still has emotional access to you. Your steady response tells her everything she doesn't. Two, attachment disguised as vulnerability. She opens up. She shares something personal. She hints at missing your presence. A weak man melts here. A strong man doesn't. He listens. He observes. He responds without over-investing. Because he understands something most men never learn. Her emotions aren't the signal. Her consistency is. A strong man waits for behavior, not promises. Alignment, not nostalgia. Actions, not longing. Your tone is calm. Your words are measured. Your boundaries remain intact. No resentment, no bitterness, no eagerness. Just a grounded truth: I'm open to connection, but on a pace and level that respects both of us. This is what pulls her deeper than any chase ever could. It's not your affection. It's not your validation. It's not the history between you. It's your evolution, the man you became while she was gone. Because the truth is simple: her return is not a trophy. Her return is a mirror, a reflection of your growth, your restraint, your rising self-respect. She's not coming back to test your desire. She's coming back because your strength revealed her own uncertainty. And that, right there, is the unspoken moment when the power dynamic shifts forever. When a woman ignores you, when she pulls back, when she goes silent, it's easy for the old version of you to show up, the reactive one, the one who chases, the one who tries to fix everything with words. But this version of you, the man who can sit in discomfort without collapsing, the man who can stay calm when everything feels uncertain, the man who chooses inner strength over emotional impulse, that man is rare. And rare men always rise. Remember this: you never lose by staying grounded. You never lose by protecting your peace. You never lose by choosing yourself before choosing validation. Silence isn't a punishment. It's a filter. It reveals who's meant to stay and who was only meant to pass through. So whatever situation you're in right now, stay steady, hold your frame, move with purpose, carry yourself with quiet confidence. Because the moment you stop reacting, you stop bleeding power. And that's when people finally feel the gravity of who you are. If this message spoke to you, it's not random. It means you're evolving. It means you're stepping into the version of yourself you were always meant to become. If this video awakened something inside you, comment, "I choose awareness." Like and subscribe to join the Brotherhood of Stoic Masculinity. Your rise starts here. Your silence has power. Your presence has weight. And your future demands a stronger version of you. Choose awareness. Choose discipline. Choose yourself.